Greetings, it's the 29th of January. If you're seeing this much later, uh, greetings, this is my first video. Might not be as skilled as I am later. So, I decided, this is not actually, I've done YouTube videos before. I did videos for a channel about transportation and things like that. I feel like this is more important. As Joe Biden said at the beginning of, before his term, back during the election of 2020, that this is a battle for the soul of this country. And I think that the stakes are beyond us. It's the whole world is in danger, and so I do feel like this is more important. I might get back to that one later, the transportation channel, and I might not. But this, so I did feel a sense of urgency as well about getting this started. I felt like if I didn't do it now, I wouldn't do it at all, because yesterday is the day that I would have started school if I had not taken some time off. Yesterday would have been in order to build this channel up. Yesterday is when I would have gone back, and a bunch of things happened with a hard drive that had stuff on it, photos that I was collecting, a personal hobby, and it sent me into a deep depression. And I felt like I'm either going to be able to show up on for all of you and give you some kind of lesson, or I'm probably not ever going to be able to do it, because I'm just going to be exhausted from this. And so I decided that I have to put this out there and get to work. So I felt when that hard drive broke down, and I don't know whether the data is still there or not. Maybe it is. I'm not going to focus on it a whole lot. It's not that many photos, and really I have copies of them without metadata. It's probably fine, but I had this immense reaction to it, that of inescapability, where I felt like I could not escape what was happening. And it just reminds me I have a life. It just reminds me of it reminded me of a time when I grew a lot, which is when I crashed my motorcycle. And I am a believer in Christ. I am a follower of his. It will come up again. It informs a lot of what I think about the world. I believe generally the things that I believe in terms of the law and morality is really comes more from personal experience. But I definitely believe that there is a lot of helplessness in us, especially now. But it's not a reason to give up, and that's something I got from my faith. And so, but I had this reaction again, and it's a relatively petty thing to have a reaction of, with all the stuff that's going on in the world. In general, I won't burden you with things from my personal life unless I can bring some kind of a lesson out of it. And I think a lot of us felt that way after the election as well. I certainly felt that way after the election. For several weeks, I felt like the walls were closing in and there was nowhere that I could go. It was irresponsible for me to ignore it. Like, there was actually a moral dimension. It wasn't just compulsive, brain won't go anywhere else. There was actually a moral dimension to it in that case. And there's a lot of reasons why I felt guilty about losing those, the original of those pictures. One of that being that it's going to take time to get back to where it was before. I can. Nothing completely unrecoverable has happened. The dates aren't going to be exactly the same, the times, but it's more or less fine. I know how to do this, but it would take time, and I might not have that time. It might not be something that I should do. I had hobbies, and I love my hobbies, and that is a big one, the family photo collection that I can finally put together, because I did have a hard life, and a lot of stuff didn't make it, and it's hard, but, and case in point, I just felt it again. The point is, I don't, we can feel that way, and a lot of us do, and there's valid reasons to feel that way. Like, the guy did promise about the world in general. The guy did promise that he was going to institute totalitarianism. But I don't think that we should give up. And a lot of people had this very fatalistic reaction to the election of, oh, I guess this is who we are. This is who we've always been. And there is the truth that we've been sick, and I don't understand how people would not have noticed that before, but we are deeply culturally sick, and that has been exposed. I've written a whole paper about how the American people have been driven into a position like this by the falling apart of the nuclear family, which is kind of the normal arrangement of family when there isn't trauma, and other things usually form by trauma and separation and pain. So I've written papers on it. I get it, but there's a word in Spanish called estar, and there's another one for ser called ser, and both of them have the meaning of to be, but one of them, estar, is about state. It's about a state that you're in, and ser is about a trait that you have had that's essential to who you are. And I don't think that this is a ser thing. I don't think that this is a trait. I think that this is a state. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, this is the original sin that we have of slavery." It is a big problem. We have legacies of it that we haven't worked on, and we have other things that have made it harder. But slavery is a big problem in our history, but for most of our history, we have not had slavery, and for most of the history of slavery in this land, in the Americas, we have not been independent. Like, from 1619, most of that was colonial. And I think the only reason why most of the slaves, maybe most of the slaves that have lived in this place lived after independence, but that was because of a population boom. Take that for what it's worth. I think as well that this election, a lot of it is driven by a desire that people have not to live anymore because of the pain that they're in. I don't think that we would have achieved what we have achieved as a country so far if that was something that was a trait and not a state. Like, we've been a democracy for 200 years. We've had all of these achievements. I don't think that we would have gotten there if this was always who we are. I I think that it's an exaggeration to say that. I think that this is a temporary thing, at least if we survive it. And I have to believe that we will. There are some logical reasons, not enough, but there are some, and I'll get to those at the end. But there's this phenomenon that happens to people that are addicted where they will want to end, they won't want to live anymore, and they will, right before they stop using, and if they can survive that period, it is a signal that they're capable of getting healthy now, because they understand how much the addicted life, the best part of it's being high, and even that gets worse over time, that the addicted life is a miserable life. If they can understand that, then that is much healthier. And so that is a reason to be hopeful if we survive this 4 years and we still have the things that we took for granted before, like freedom of speech and democracy, and the ability to actually get better. I think we're in a good position to do it. And even hard things, and giving up vices is hard. Giving up drugs and unhealthy sexuality and things like that, it's a hard thing to do. I think that we're ready for that kind of hard work now. And so I do think that we have a lot of hope if we can survive this. So now I'm going to get to the logical reasons why I think that there's hope for us. And the first one is just that I have never seen a new totalitarian regime, I've never heard of one yet, that has not been ruled by a single person that had all of the power at the top. I've never heard of a regime that can run on autopilot, that is able to establish the kinds of things that, I'm not going to remind you of them, that this man promised, that Trump promised. I don't think that Trump is up for the task, frankly. I don't think he's up for the task. I think that he's too deeply in cognitive decline to be able to pull off the task of organizing and coordinating between multiple of his nominees that definitely want to do that. And so I think there's going to be infighting, and I don't think that they're going to have the time or the stability to be able to establish it. Another one is that a lot of these regimes establish themselves, they do well with the people and with their budget by doing well economically, and his policies are simply dumb in that respect. They would damage the economy, they endanger the food supply, and you can get away with that when you already have a complete grip on society, but he doesn't yet. And so I think that it's not as many as I would want. The Republicans haven't been great, but it's something.